All right, everybody, welcome back to the Crypto 101 podcast. I'm your host, Bryce, and I'm joined today by David Wells, who is the CEO of Enclave Markets. David, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, you bet. It's my pleasure. Thanks for joining me. Enclave Markets has caught my eye. You guys are doing a lot of really interesting things over there in regards to cryptocurrency exchange and giving users the control, the power. Tell us a little bit about what this fully encrypted exchange is and how it's different from any other DEX or centralized exchange that we might be already familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds great. And I think the context of what's been happening in the crypto markets over the last year can be helpful as much as some of the things have been unfortunate. But yeah, so we did actually start this project of building a fully encrypted exchange, which I'll get into more. But at a high level, we've essentially built a centralized exchange model within an encrypted environment that we as the exchange operators don't have the ability to go in ourselves and sort of see customer data, take customer funds, those types of things. But yeah, we started building this over a year before all of these things happened in crypto. And
did you know what was going on with FTX at the time, or was this just a lucky hit?
No inside intel there, but I've been in crypto since probably about 2015 personally, and then professionally 2017. So I've seen everything from Mt. Gox all the way through FTX, and so this issue of sort of the centralized trusted operator with little oversight has unfortunately been a problem that has come up over the years. In crypto, and part of what drove sort of like the DeFi movement was in response to this. Like, why do we have these centralized systems? So we built something that basically maintains the performance of a centralized platform and some of the privacy aspects. So off-chain order flow and account management, instantaneous settlement, but we have a decentralized security and governance model. And so our three, without getting too much into the technical details, our three main sort of problems we're solving for are one around security. Are your funds safe? In this case, you don't have to trust us. We have a network of independent third-party attesters that all sort of hold a share of being able to access or update the environments or access the funds. Fairness is the other issue that has been an issue in the marketplace, where you have internal market makers where the exchange is trading against you. They have they can see your order coming before it hits the order book, or others have preferential access. So is the market neutral? And so we've built the FEX in a way that sort of guarantees that through a code base that is audited by these attesters and external third parties. But then maintaining the performance of a centralized model, because the one issue that we've had in the DEX markets is one, you don't really have the privacy because all the order flow is on chain. You still have issues of like front running that happens through something called minor extractable value, where you can sort of like have a sandwich order. People they see your order, they throw an order in front of you and charge you a higher price. And then pretty significant sort of slippage in market impact that you experience in the DEX world. And then there's also just the question around, can you be compliant and follow all of the regulations? And so we were able to build this in a way that is compliant, follows all of the sort of requirements of a normal centralized market, but removing ourselves as the exchange operator as the sort of single point of failure that you have in the system. So you don't have to trust my tweets or underwrite me as am I a trustworthy person. We really use code to address a lot of these issues.
Beautiful. I love it. And how fortuitous that we speak today, the day after the CFTC hits Binance with a lawsuit with a whole litany of accusations, basically that you just had stated that you guys built your exchange that you cannot ever do. You can never get accused of front running your customers or having 300 different affiliated trading accounts or anything like that. And so, you guys are building something that the market is clearly praying for and calling for. So this is great timing.
Yeah, really appreciate that. Yeah, I think on our side, our challenge is it is a technical solution. It's using sort of leading edge security technology. So we use something called Secure Enclave, which is why we chose to put the name Enclave right into our name. Yep. But yeah, so our job is to really educate on how this is possible, because most people, when they hear it, they think like, well, yeah, that's what you say, but like I know what's really going on behind the scenes. But that's not the case here. We have our code base is fully audited, not just by our tester network, but by third-party auditors like Trilobits and things like that. So any update that we make to the code base gets reviewed and audited. So this is truly sort of decentralized oversight and security, but with a centralized model.
Wow. And are there different order types that you could do on that? Is it just like a market buy, market sell, or is there ability to have more complex order types?
Yeah, great question. So one of the benefits of the FEX model is the order book and the matching engine. Those truly are sort of a black box, and so that gives you a level of privacy. Even though it's a permission network, we're making sure it's all good actors who are on the platform trading. It's all undisclosed, and it's fully private and confidential. And so that allows us to create new, more sophisticated marketplace models that have existed in traditional finance. So there's something called a crossing network that has existed in equities and foreign exchange for a while. And that's our first product, is inspired by that. It's a crypto infrastructure version of that, but it's called Enclave Cross. And it's an undisclosed order book. And when the trades are executed, those are not published externally. And the pricing mechanism uses a pricing oracle, which is an average across external venues. So those things combined means you can basically come in, have an order, submit an order confidentially. It's not going to be posted to an order book somewhere. You're not hitting like an OTC desk that is, immediately knows your position and can start sort of like trading against you. And then when the order is filled, when the other side of the trade comes in, that's not reported externally. And so you don't have to worry about spooking the markets or spooking all the trading algorithms that see trades happen and immediately start, adjusting pricing. And you're not having any market impact. So because we use that external pricing oracle, there is no, separate price on that order book. So we think, the value proposition of the full encrypted exchange and the privacy you get there leads to this, really interesting, sophisticated marketplace type that hasn't existed in crypto before. But in traditional markets, this, as an example, this would be used by, the large asset managers that run your 401ks, the Vanguards and the BlackRocks. Every day they have to buy and sell a large number of shares because they're essentially rebalancing their portfolios based on, you're contributing to your 401k, and that's going to go and buy a basket of S&P 500. So, those large asset managers are often getting front run. And so they use products like this crossing network in traditional markets every day. A pretty significant portion of the large asset manager flow goes through this model because it protects you against the front running and people sort of seeing what your position is and trying to take advantage of that.
And I guess my question is, why is Enclave the first to do this? Why hasn't Coinbase, why hasn't Binance, any of the other existing exchanges kind of looked at this kind of opportunity, this technological ability and said, let's do this? Are they going to?
It's a great question. I mean, I think one thing is the Secure Enclave technology. It has been around for a while. Actually, interestingly enough, every iPhone has a Secure Enclave in it that holds sort of the kernel, the most sensitive data that you have or private keys that you have on your phone. So the technology is relatively new. Let's say it's been around for 10 years, but really just sort of coming into larger use case adoption over the last 3 to 4 years even. But it's a proven technology. But I think most of the centralized exchanges, two things. One is they've been around a while. Most of them have been around at least 5, if not 10 years, and so they have very large, monolithic, large databases and things like that. So it's tough for them to. We have a blank sheet, so we were able to build it with this, encrypted model in mind. So I think from a technology standpoint, it would be difficult for them to do that. But also, as we see, like there's a lot of reasons why if you're a central exchange operator and you see all of this data, all of your customers' trading data, and you monetize that, there's a business case against doing that. So I think it would, their business models are basically built in part around seeing this data, potentially selling that data externally. Right. To trading firms, and so I think it's there's some disincentives for them to do this model. So we wanted to build this from scratch, launch it. It runs autonomously. The network of testers maintains it, and it's a pretty efficient system from our perspective.
Yeah, awesome. You kind of hit on a little bit of what I was getting at, because a lot of times the exchanges take advantage of their customers by design. I mean, they might
Right.
not refer to it as taking advantage, but they look at your orders and they sell your order flow, or in
That's
some
right.
way, they're making fees, all that kind of stuff. And in a lot of the shystiness, if we call it, is that literally their business model. And so
Yes,
what is
exactly.
for Enclave Markets, what's the business model? What's the profit center? How are you guys making money?
Sure. Yeah, I think another important part of our value proposition is that our fees and pricing are going to be extremely transparent. So right now we're in beta mode, so there's actually no fees. So you can sign up and use it today, and there's zero fees. But you will see a place, a line item where it says, if there were fees, like this is where it would go. I think transparency in pricing and fees is extremely important, and it goes in line with just sort of the transparency and trust and neutrality that an exchange should have. You just want to be a marketplace, bringing people together, and you take a very small fee for doing that. So that will always be disclosed. One of the issues, in addition to selling the data and trading against your customers and things like that, there's also this notion of hiding the fees, and so
Yeah.
a lot of centralized markets will basically just put their fees in their price, right? It's like a spread that they put in, so they're charging you up to 1.5% or more in order for you to just do like a standard market order. And we think that that's not that's not long term conducive to building trust with your customers. We think the fees should always be transparent.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. I don't think that some of these wide spreads and saying it's baked in, people get taken advantage of, and they don't really they don't know any better. And I think that's also one of the things that the SEC is really coming after crypto for all those disclosures of where are
Yes.
you making money as an exchange, disclose, all that stuff. And hopefully, whatever comes out of the Grayscale lawsuit and Coinbase's lawsuit that they're fighting right now with the SEC, whatever comes out of it, hopefully it comes out to be, more adoption, more equitable opportunities for everybody in the States and globally.
Yep.
Is
Totally.
Enclave available in the States?
It depends on where you're at. So
Okay.
we're not a fiat on or off ramp. It's all stablecoin based. So that's where we look a little bit more like a DeFi marketplace. There are a little over half of the states don't require a license for that type of model where you're not moving fiat, and so we are up and running in those 20 to 30 states, we'll say. And in the meantime, we're in the process of applying for what's called money transmitting license to be able to operate in the rest of the states. And then similarly, for international jurisdictions, it's sort of a similar case by case scenario. But yeah, we are live in more than half the states today.
Okay, that makes sense. And a lot of people who are listening are crypto traders. A lot of them are NFT traders as well. Does Enclave Markets host or have plans to host NFT marketplaces?
It's a good question. It's definitely something that's come up quite a bit. We think, in the first model of Enclave Cross, we use a pricing oracle. So we're looking at external venues, and there's sort of price discovery externally there. So that doesn't fit quite as well with the NFT, which is more of like an auction model. Our next product, though, that we'll be coming live with, we haven't formally announced, but that will look more like a traditional sort of central limit order book. And that's a marketplace where we could trade other interesting types of assets rather than just sort of like native crypto, but we could get into, being able to host and trade some NFTs and things like that.
Yeah. I think that one day, hopefully, we could have these sort of, really liquid markets for tokenized stocks and bonds and different
Absolutely.
stuff like that. That would be really cool. I think that, and MakerDAO or something could lend against those assets in collateral, and there could be a really vibrant ecosystem. It's just, I don't know. It seems like there's a little bit of resistance to bringing real world assets on chain, whether it's just regulation and stickiness there, not being able to really move through it. What do you think the barrier to adoption here is to get real world assets on chain?
Yeah, it's a great question. This is something I've been excited about for years. For those who've been in the space since 2017, 2018, there was the concept of security token offering, STO, was fairly popular topic of conversation for a while. I think real world assets is a more mature version of that idea. But what happened in 2017, 2018 is most of the platforms weren't super mature, and so trying to get those Web3 platforms to integrate with like the traditional world of asset managers and custodians and things like that. Like we see how difficult custody is in crypto already. Imagine you're working with a real estate custodian or an art custodian. You're saying like, hey, you're holding on the legal deed to this, but like let's tokenize that and break it up and then put it into this marketplace. So I think like there's a lot more nuance there, especially when it comes to obviously regulated securities and regulated markets. You have to put in a lot of guardrails into that system that are programmed in. But we do see examples of this happening today. So we're incubated and backed by Ava Labs. There was an announcement a few months ago where KKR is, through Securitize, tokenizing a portion of their private equity fund and making that available to users on chain, and that's going to be built on the Avalanche chain. So I think you'll see more of that with like the traditional financial world of asset managers and custodians working with the fintech and Web3 world to be able to link those two together. But it definitely takes time, and it's a lot of legal reviews, as you can imagine.
Yeah. I'm curious, just, you've got a background in really the traditional finance world. You're a graduate of Harvard Business School. You worked at McKinsey, I believe, as well as Two Sigma, which, really popular hedge fund. I think Paul Tudor Jones seeded it originally, who's one of my favorite investors. So, you definitely rub elbows with a lot of guys in that space still, I imagine. What do they think of your move to crypto? And what do they think of crypto generally? Are you having these conversations that look a lot different than they looked back in 2017 when you kind of first started out? Or are they still poo-pooing our industry?
Yeah, no, I would say it's much more the conversations that we have now. It used to be a joke in 2018. So I was at a crypto firm called Paxos in 2018, and we would go around and have meetings with sort of like larger TradFi market participants, and you'd have meeting after meeting after meeting, and the joke was like, if I hear about another good meeting, like I'm gonna go crazy, because that's all it was, right? It's just meetings. I see a lot more actual movement and investment on the infrastructure side and also on the talent side. So a lot of the larger TradFi firms are bringing in talent from crypto Web3 to be able to truly understand it and sort of like get ready to build out some of this infrastructure to be able to integrate. Because now that crypto has been around for 15 years and we're starting to see some much more like real world use cases versus just sort of native crypto asset trading, but using this infrastructure to trade all types of assets. I think you saw the CEO of BlackRock say the other day that he thinks all the world's assets will tokenize. So you can see like it's starting to click, and people are making investments. That'll still take a few years, but you can see it happening. Nasdaq is another one that's announced custody services for crypto. That's a starting point. Fidelity launched their crypto offering. So that stuff didn't really happen. That was sort of just like a dream 5 years ago. So I think that shows you the staying power and the fact that people sort of recognize, okay, yeah, it's a volatile asset class, no question, and we've seen a lot of these bear bull cycles, but you can start to recognize a pattern of, okay, yes, you've had a lot of volatility. Like I think there's been probably 6 or 7, 80% pullbacks in the price of Bitcoin since 2010, let's say. But at the same time, it hasn't gone anywhere. In fact, adoption has only grown, right? And so I think that narrative continues to persist, where hundreds of millions of users are now using this and are comfortable with using it. In the US, tens of millions of users. So you're really starting to see some traction where people are saying, okay, yeah, we're going to sort of like ignore the price action and some of the bad actors, which is going to happen in any new burgeoning, sort of like immature marketplace, especially in, financial services or capital markets. But they're continuing to cautiously, I would say, make that infrastructure investment and in talent to be able to understand, what are the requirements both on the legal side and the technology side, and then come up with like a real plan for being able to invest resources into building this out. And I imagine, particularly as of late, they're going to be working closely with regulators too to say like, okay, we're doing it this way. Does that make sense to you? Thumbs up, And so hopefully we'll have, a better engagement between larger, institutions, asset managers, the regulatory space, and then with the technology builders.
Yeah, beautifully said. I think you hit a lot of the right notes. And what I was just going to say was like, the Bank of New York Mellon. I mean, they're like the oldest bank in America or something like that. And they're like, going all in on crypto. It seems like every other day I see a headline about, due to customer demand, we're launching this kind of product or this custody service. And, it's definitely happening. And so I think that this is all very bullish for our ecosystem. It kind of cements in Bitcoin, in my mind, it cements it as just this alternative ecosystem that, it seems like it really does have a clear pass from the SEC and from the CFTC about, you're on your own. We're not going to be coming after Bitcoin, it seems. So I think Bitcoin's like, totally rallying pretty hard right now because also the bank failures. It's got the Lindy effect. It's the the first one, right? Everybody trusts it the most. But let me ask you, besides Bitcoin, what ecosystems do you trust? What are you bullish on? Who do you like?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're incubated by Ava Labs and backed by that team. And what
and they
sort of drew
develop
me
Avalanche, right?
Avalanche, that's exactly right. The developers of Avalanche. So, what really drew me back into the space and this opportunity is just the caliber of talent of that founding team, and quite frankly, the full company. Now I've had a chance to meet many of them, but these are true. Their background, for people who don't know, they came from the computer science department at Cornell University. The founder was 20-year professor, just sort of like a legend in encryption, and has been in this space since for as long as Satoshi. But or longer. But so that was super impressive to me, and I think that is another thing that's different about the last 2 to 3 years versus the 2017 2018. I think that was driven by a lot of like really young, hungry, and super smart and intelligent teams. Now you have people who have been building things in academia and big tech who truly understand like how to build enterprise grade platforms and products, and truly understand the aspects of encryption, but also understand the use cases. So it's it's one thing to like build really cool products, but you have to understand also how to apply those to real world use cases. And so now this space has and there's several other teams out there as well, but just in my direct interaction, you see more of that talent that just truly understands like both worlds: financial marketplaces, real world use cases, cloud computing, and then decentralized computing. Those things together are super powerful.
Yeah. And hey, Amazon says the same thing that you said. They partnered with Avalanche, I think maybe a month ago or something. So you're in good company.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of many. There's been, like I mentioned, the KKR and Securitize announcement. There's been other cloud providers, but I really like their focus on like we're going for infrastructure, real world. The synergy between cloud computing and decentralized distributed systems, I think, is very powerful. That takes a while to build out and invest in, but those are the right types of partnerships versus, hey, we're launching another meme coin, and like pump a dump, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I really like these the real world applications that's being built out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And with Enclave Markets, how big is the team? I'm curious just about like what it's like to run an organization like that. Is it a DAO or is it just like a straight up company? And how do you kind of manage it?
Yeah, good question. So it is a hybrid model. We're Enclave Markets is Inc. So we're incorporated. The team is about 15 people, and but the way that we think about the platform, the fully encrypted exchange platform, is we are one component of this network of testers. And so right now we're starting off with 4 testers. We'll probably expand that to 8 or 10, something like that. And then you just require a quorum of those testers to be able to push system updates and things like that. And so our role really is to think through, build out, and propose updates to the FEX model in the marketplace. And so that's sort of what we do. So we don't see ourselves as sort of like the monolithic exchange operator, but we're sort of like thinking of new features, new marketplace types, proposing that, and then that gets approved and pushed out. And as long as it's basically in line with our core value propositions, we've had great collaboration there.
Love it. And before I let you go, we like to ask one question to everybody that comes on the show, and it's a kind of a simple one, but as an expert speaking to somebody who might just be new in the space, what's one word of advice or one word of wisdom that you could kind of leave us with that might help us along our crypto journey?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, hopefully this isn't too high level, but one driving force that's always benefited me and my career is always having a sense of curiosity. So I'm a type of person that like loves going down YouTube rabbit holes or Wikipedia rabbit holes or Reddit, forums. And I think just having like a true sense of curiosity, and also wanting to understand things fundamentally. Going back to like first principles, like how is this creating like economic value what is the value being derived from this platform or from this, marketplace or this asset, whatever it is. So asking those fundamental questions, it's never honestly like as complex as people make it sound. I learned this in business school where finance is just a bunch of like 25-cent terms, but 75-cent words. It's not like why are you saying capital instead of like money, right? It's just or leverage
basis
instead
points
of debt.
instead of percentage
Yeah,
points.
bits, right? Yeah, some people get those confused, but like it's just a different language, and I think it's just so that some intermediaries can charge tolls, right, and sound really smart doing it. But so don't get intimidated, I guess, either by the financial terms, but also that applies to technology concepts too.
Yeah.
Because at its basis, at its foundation, it's very simple concepts, and so trying to break things down at those low levels and just not letting like vocabulary get in your way, and having that confidence that you can truly understand these things at a fundamental level. I mean, almost everybody can, honestly, with enough curiosity, enough reading, and enough investment in it. So.
Man, yeah, couldn't have said it better. I think that's a great note to end it on, just because, at the end of the day, man, we're all here to learn. And if you think you're an expert, go back to square one, because you don't know what you don't know. And there's always something to learn. And trust me, whenever I hear a Vitalik presentation, I'm just like, oh my God, I am so noobish. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Absolutely. For sure.
Killer. Well, David Wells, CEO of Enclave Markets, thanks for joining us today on the Crypto 101 podcast. We hope to have you back on again soon when you're coming out with some more updates.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bryce. Really appreciate it.
All right, everybody who's listening at home, take care and stay tuned, because we've got some more guests coming up later this week.